Hello, I'm making beef goulash today. So I've got this stewing steak, extra lean diced beef. There's about 250 grams here. The recipe actually calls for 500 grams, but I'm using half because I'm not a massive meat eater. I've got some mushrooms, 3 mushrooms that I've just washed, a carrot that I'm going to peel and chop, an onion that's nice, a stick of celery, a green pepper, going to de-seed, cut it. I've got a can of chopped tomatoes, some tomato puree, some paprika, a little bit of ground nutmeg, salt and pepper for seasoning. I'm also going to put in some Lee & Perrins Worcestershire sauce. I love that stuff. Got to make some beef stock, so I've got some stock cubes. And to put the meat in, I'm going to use some gluten-free plain flour. Utensils I'm going to use today is this big pot here. I'm going to use this measuring jug for the stock, this mixing bowl to put the meat and the flour in and mix it together, a wooden spoon, a stock pot. Going to use a stock pot, can't say that word, stock pot. That's going to cook in there for about 7 hours, 6 hours. What else we got? We've got a nice sharp knife. Must have a nice sharp knife to cut the veg. Got a smaller sharp knife because you might want to do some surgical work. You've got 3 spoons. You've got a tablespoon, a long handled teaspoon and a small handled teaspoon. And my secret weapon, which is a vegetable peeler, because I peel off, I don't know, the carrot. I'm going to peel off the carrot. Usually I use it for potatoes, but I'm going to use it today for the carrot. So let's get on to the actual making of the dish. Because I'm only using half the meat, I'm going to use half the flour that the recipe calls for. So because it's 500 grams of stewing steak, I'm using 250 grams. And the recipe for the seasoned flour is 30 grams, so I'm going to use 15 grams of that. So I'm going to weigh that out in here, in this little cup. So I'm going to add the flour to the bowl, and then I'm going to put a tiny bit of salt in there, and I'm going to put some pepper, bit of pepper, and I'm going to take the meat I'm going to put the meat into the flour, like that. And I'm just going to mix it around until all the flour is covering all of the meat. I am going to just put in a little bit more flour, probably another 5 grams or so. Keep moving the meat in the flour, like that. Right, so now we've done that, we're going to prepare the onion. Cut it in half, peel off the ends, take the skin away, like this. Let's cut the onions up. Like that. Then we're going to take a peeler and we're going to peel off the carrot. like that. And we're going to cut the ends off. So then we're going to cut the carrot into little carrot slices. Got to cut them not too thick because I want to be able to digest them easily. Not too thin. Without cutting my fingers. There we go, and we cut a carrot there. And then that last one. There you go. So that's the carrot. Going to push that out of the way. Now what I'm going to do is green pepper. I'm going to cut all the way around the top like that. And then I'm going to pull out the seed pod. The little seed pod inside, see? Then I'm going to cut it in half, like that. And I'm going to cut out these white bits inside. Put some somewhere. And then just like that. Get rid of that bit. And I'm going to cut up the green pepper. And I'm going to turn it into kind of almost squares. Some semi-big pieces. Get rid of that seed, I don't want the seeds. Right, so that's the onions, the carrots and the pepper. So we're now going to add the olive oil or vegetable oil. There's about 3 tablespoons, which roughly equates to about 45 millilitres. So I'm going to put that into the pan. While the pan heats up, got to let it get quite hot. And then I'm going to fry the onions, carrots and green pepper. And also now going to cut the mushrooms into slices. Don't have to add mushrooms if you don't like mushrooms. I actually quite like mushrooms, so and they're quite good for you. So I'm going to cut the mushrooms just into like mushroom slices. That's the mushrooms done. Now when you think the oil's hot enough, you can add the carrots and the green peppers into the pan. And the mushrooms, of course. Can't forget about the mushrooms. And I've got a... Do you know what? I forgot about this, didn't I? The celery stick. You're going to cut up the celery into little slices. You're going to add that to the frying pan. And then you're going to give it a stir around. And at this point I like to add a little bit of pepper for seasoning. Add a tiny bit of salt, like practically nothing. Keep stirring that round, frying that. Turn up the heat a little bit. Keep stirring it. Let it fry down. So now the veg has been frying for a little while. I'm now going to add the meat. So I'm now going to put in the stewing steak and brown it. Give it a good stir. Going to stir it in. So we're going to fry this till it's browned off. Keep stirring it around. Keep stirring round, browning off the meat. It smells quite delicious already actually, and I haven't even cooked it yet. It's got to spend about 6 or 7 hours in a slow cooker. So I'm now going to make the stock, just using a stock cube. I'll put the stock cube in. I'm using about 150 millilitres of water because I've reduced the meat, so I'm going to use slightly less. Going to mix that up. So I'm going to use some mixed herbs because the recipe calls for mixed herbs with some ground nutmeg and some paprika. Keep stirring round, browning off the meat. It smells quite delicious already actually, and I haven't even cooked it yet. It's got to spend about 6 or 7 hours in a slow cooker. Now once the meat is browned off nicely like this, I'm going to add a teaspoon of paprika, and I'm going to use some tomato puree, 3 teaspoons of this. About all I've got left anyway, and a tiny pinch of ground nutmeg, just a pinch, you don't need too much of this, and I'm going to stir that in. And I'm just going to stir this for literally like 2 minutes, just so it's all stirred in. And I've got it on like, not a medium, lower than a medium heat. So it's all mixed together. Right, so now I'm going to add the stock. I'm going to add the tomatoes. And you could put some red wine in here, but I don't have any, so I'm not going to put that in. I'm going to give that a little stir. And the secret ingredient is going to be the Worcestershire sauce. And it's 3 teaspoons. So there's 1, there's 2, and there's 3. This is Lee & Perrins Worcestershire sauce, it's lovely. Now I'm going to give that a stir in. And a little bit of pepper. and a tiny, tiny bit of salt. Now I'm going to bring this back to the boil. I'll bring it to a simmer actually, not a boil but a simmer. Looks quite nice, doesn't it, already? Yummy. If you can hear that sound in the background, that's my extractor fan above this pot. Three teaspoons, maybe that much. That's 3 teaspoons worth. That's the mixed herbs anyway. So I'm now going to put in the mixed herbs, give that a stir in. Just because I like to put that in at the end. Going to give that a good stir around, going to just increase the heat just a little bit more. I'm actually cooking on an induction hob, I'm not used to it. I used to cook on gas, like a flame, you know. Now I'm cooking on an induction hob. It's difficult to gauge the heat. Like with a flame, you can see the heat basically, can't you? Anyway, so I'm stirring the bottom of the pan because I over fried it earlier and there was a little bit of burnt residue on the bottom, so I'm going to stir that off into the dish. Right, now we've got it to a bit of a simmer. So I'm now going to transfer into the slow cooker. Going to try and get everything in there. It smells wonderful, by the way. You should have a go at making this yourself. Okay. Going to wash that pot up in a minute. Right, now we're going to bring the slow cooker in. I'm going to transfer it into the actual slow cooker. Bring it over here. Right, now that's done. Now we're going to put the lid on. Now I'm going to add some boiling water to a pan. And I'm going to get some potatoes. I'm going to get 3 potatoes and peel them off with my potato peeler. Like that. Now I'm going to cut the potatoes into smaller pieces. And I'm going to put them into some boiling water. And I'm going to boil them for 20 minutes. So once the potatoes are boiled, I'm going to drain off the water from the potatoes. I'm going to put them here. Then I'm going to add some butter and I'm going to add some milk, just a little bit of milk. just like that much milk, not a lot. And then I'm gonna mash the potatoes down and just add a little bit more milk, just a tiny bit. Gonna try and stir it round. There you go, mashed potatoes. Bring over my Happy Cat tray, which I warmed up earlier. And I'm going to have the goulash here. Steamy goulash. Looks really yummy. I'm going to put it onto the mashed potatoes like this. I'm going to get the carrots and the meat. That looks lovely. So there we go. Beef goulash and mashed potatoes.